Hello everyone, this is Diane, and I will be your host for Vulcan Pricing Demo. So let's get started. We're going to look at a particular fitting, this square elbow, so you can see what we actually have taken off for this fitting. It's a 35 by 25 6-inch throats using galvanized 24 gauge, asking for large vanes, and also some rod reinforcing TDC connectors. We're going to say OK to that and go back to the Vulcan screen to show you how we've actually computed the cost of that one particular fitting. What you do, if you want to see how we break down that cost, you highlight any item contained in a job and press the query button. That query button will appear and it will actually show you all the items and how we computed the $92.90 for that one particular elbow. Now when you're doing the query button, remember if there was a quantity of 10 or 2, anything greater than 1 on that fitting, when you press the query button, this is just computing the cost of one item. So let's go and see where you set up information about costing. We're going to first select the job. We're going to modify it. One thing you need to set up is, of course, a labor cost. Each job can have a different labor cost. This is the average hourly rate that you're going to pay on a job. That's the information that you want to set up at the job level. Each job, again, can have a different labor cost per job. The next area that you'll go to is Shop Setup. And let's look at metals. We were using galvanized and we were using 24 gauge. For each gauge, you're able to set up a labor factor per gauge. So you're actually telling it here how many pounds, whatever the unit is, and in this case for metal, it's pounds. How many pounds your shop can produce in an hour. How many fittings your shop, rectangular fittings your shop can produce in an hour. Same thing with how many pounds of round duct your shop can produce in an hour, and round fittings. So you do that for each and every gauge, and again those can be different. So let's go back and look again at this moment. We had 41 cents per square foot. This is 41 cents a square foot in Imperial for that particular gauge. So let's go back to fittings and we'll go back to the job we were on, and it shows here that we have 44.54 square feet. So if we press that query button, you'll see 44.545 square feet at 41 cents per foot comes up to $18.26. We take that $18.26 and now we want to compute the pounds. Well, each gauge also has a weight per square foot. So you're going to take the square foot, 44.545, and 24, whatever 24 gauge is, computes to pounds per square foot, and multiply that out, and we've come up with 50, if you look back on the screen, 51.49 pounds. We also said on 24 gauge that our shop can produce 34 pounds per hour. So you'll take the 51.49 pounds, divide it by 34 pounds per hour, which computes to 1.5 hours. Now the $25 is multiplied for the labor cost that we set up on the job level. So you'll just take that out and multiplies those together and you'll come up with $37.86. You'll follow the same information down for vanes and runners and your connectors, meaning any kind of connector that you're using, any rods that you're using for each item in Vulcan. And we'll go on over to Shop Setup again and we'll look at vanes, for example, and we were using large vanes. We'll go over to the vane data. We're saying that 75 cents per foot for the vane itself, 65 cents per foot for the runner. We're also saying that our shop can produce 300 feet of runner, or actually of vane, per hour. 300 feet of runner. So these values you have to enter on whatever your shop can do in an hour. Same thing if we go back over to seams and you look at any of the labors. Let's say for welded, you may want some extra labor because it takes more to weld as far as the labor goes. So that's where you set up the cost of the material and then also the labor. And you do that for each and every item in the Vulcan program. So we'll go over to costing. We're saying that our gasket costs 9 cents a foot, our corners are 21 cents each, and our bolts are 9 cents each. And you can again put in a labor factor of how many feet of gasket your shop can produce in an hour, how many corners, how many each, how many of these items your shop can install in an hour. So you do that again for each and every data item. Going back to Vulcan and fittings, and we'll look back at that same sample. Whoops, at WebS Costing, select it, and we'll go to the query button again, and you'll see that we had 0.65, that was the unit, and we had 8.125 of runner. We had 31.09 feet of vane. Multiplying those out, and there actually shows you the breakdown of each and every item in the Vulcan, how it computed that one particular fitting. Remember that if you had a quantity of that fitting, it will actually just, with the query button, show you one. And that concludes the WebEx Costing demo.